Hello everyone, welcome to another very exciting tutorial. A while ago I built a prototype where it's sort of like a multiple select for choosing country. Instead of country it can be anything. So as you can see I have like the list of all the countries here, and because of the user experience reasons, imagine this list was quite long. So you have to scroll all the way down and find the country that you want to select for any type of action. Imagine you want to select a country for, I don't know, showing something on the map or do something with regards to the data about the country. What I came up with is this panel, right? So you have a list of countries where you can actually select each of those like this or deselect each of those. And then you have like a chosen section down there that sort of visualizes each of the countries that you have chosen. So if I choose something down here and scroll down up, you can see that I have chosen these countries. But also what you can do is you can actually search here like United Kingdom, and you can choose this, switching back, and then you can choose something else like United States, for example, and you can see this list gets up and rolling. So if I choose, for example, if I choose Algeria, I can already see that it's chosen. I can just deselect it, and this kind of shows me what are the countries I have selected so that you can do some kind of action on top of that, right? So this is going to be the upcoming tutorial. In this tutorial, what I want to show you is how to create this customized sort of input radio button. Let's get started. I suggest if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please go ahead and do. You can see and you will see some awesome tutorials that we have developed in this channel. So don't forget to subscribe and don't forget to click on the bell icon if you have subscribed so you do get notified on the upcoming tutorials. So let's get started. As always, I'm going to go to kotus.com. In the front end section, the Codeness Online Editor, and this is where I'm going to create that customized checkbox. So just to show you how a normal input radio button looks, and I'm in by checkbox I meant radio button. So I'm going to create like an input like this, and then I say, well, the type I want it to be radio, right? Already you can see that I do have a radio button over here. What I can do next is I can create a label, slash label, and say, let's choose a country like United Kingdom, right? So now as you can see, I also have a label for my radio button. And the thing is that many times in the website, you want to make sure that when the user clicks on the label itself, also it affects the radio button, so it checks or unchecks the radio button. The way to do that, you add an attribute to the label for, you define an ID for your input, you can say my radio, and then here you say this label is for my radio, right? So now if you click on this, you will see that this Y will be checked or on, or well, basically since it's a radio button, this will always remain checked when you click. But if you change the type to checkbox, which is actually the case in this example, you can see that when you click on this, you can check or uncheck this, right? So let's take it from here. What am I going to do is that I'm just going to copy this and I will create a container and I will paste that within my container. Now I can easily go in the CSS, my container class, and I can just say, okay, I'm going to give it a margin of 40 pixel. So now it ends up over here, it's more visible. Now the idea is that I want to style this checkbox, right? To be able to do that, I'm going to go to CSS again. I know that the type of my input is of type checkbox. So in the CSS, I would say I have input of type checkbox, right? Now what I can do is I can maybe use like, I don't know, like something like appearance to none. But the thing is that I'm using Chrome. And appearance is one of those properties that is vendor specific. And since I'm in Chrome and it uses WebKit as the engine, I will type WebKit appearance none. So now you can see that my checkbox is already gone. This is very important concept for the same reason in Kotus.com in the tools section we have CSS Autoprefixer. So I know that this is the property that I want to use, right? So if I remove this, I copy this whole class and paste it here and say Autoprefix. You can see that it already adds WebKit and most or whatever vendor specific prefix that is needed for this class to work in all the browsers, right? So I'm just going to go and replace this with what I got from here, right? Now, obviously, this is going to work. So the next thing I want to do is sort of style my input. It's important to define a width and height. So I'm just going to define the width, maybe 40 pixel or even 60 pixel, and height of 60 pixel, right? Now, in order to style this, I'm going to use pseudo elements in CSS. So I'm just going to say type checkbox, and then I use before, and I don't need any content here. I can even type something, and you can see that it already gets affected here. So I don't need that, right? So what I would do is that I'm just going to width 60 pixel, height 60 pixel, and I will give it a background of, let's just for now, don't give it a background, but set the border to be 1 pixel solid, and then maybe something like, I don't know, like CCC. So now you can see that it actually shows something, but it's just a line. The reason being I have to define the position to be absolute. That's exactly what I want. And now you can see that we actually can see our checkbox. I'm just gonna maybe make it a little bit better, like AAA, so that you can see the silhouette or the borders a little bit better. I usually want to give it a border radius of 3 pixels since it looks nicer. If we want to really replicate what we have here, I need to change the border radius to something like 50% or 50 pixel as well. So this is going to be my radio, right? The next thing I would like to do is I want to make sure that I can have an after as well. So I do an after. But here, instead of maybe 16 pixel, I will make 8 pixel and 8 pixel. And I would just give it, instead of border, I will give it a background color of something like maybe 999, right? So you can see that we already have a circle over here. Now, the only thing I need to do is to change the left of it to be maybe, I know it's like 16 pixel, so maybe something like 7 pixel here, and then top to be 7 pixel as well. But the important thing is that now it ended up being on my whole page because the parent, which is this, doesn't have any position attribute or position property. I'm just going to make it relative. So now it ends up over here. So just to calculate, we have 16 pixel width and height and the 8 pixel here. So instead of 7 pixel, let's put 3. So now you can see that it ends up here. Now with some trial and error, I can make it right in the center. So 5 and 5. Now you can see that my circle is right in the center, right? So one thing I can do definitely is just to make sure that this scale of it, so I'm just going to put a transform scale to maybe 4, right? And well, it's not exactly what I wanted to. Maybe 1 or 2. It just goes away. Just forget about this. No worries. So now let's style this guy over here. As you can see, the center is not really well aligned with the label. So what I need to do is I'm just going to go ahead and give my container the display flex. So display flex. Now you can see that it already sort of aligns it. I can even go ahead and say align items to be center. So now you can see that it pretty much centers it. The only thing I need to do, maybe give there a little bit of a label. I know that there is a label here. So I'm just going to say in my container, the label should have maybe margin left of 5 pixel, right? So now you can see that the label is correct. If I zoom in a little bit here, you can see that it kind of aligns with the text or label. So I'm just going to reset the browser to default. Now what I would love to do is here I want to give the before, which corresponds to this background, the background of white, right? So I'll just get white and then a box shadow, maybe 0, 0, 4 pixel RGBA, black, 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 ARP 0, G0 and B0, and the opacity of 0.2. So I kind of have like some sort of, if I change this to 9, you'll see that I do have a shadow, and it's all depending on how you want it. If you want it to be less sort of more transparent, you're just going to choose a less opacity value, which is obviously this value is between 0 and 1, or if you want a more, you want to go 0.9. So 0.9 looks pretty good, right? So already you can see that we have a customized sort of radio button. In this sense, it's actually a checkbox. Now we want to add the checked, unchecked sort of state to it. The first thing I want to do, I want to give my sort of input a different color. So I go to kotus.com. I do have some color palettes here. So go to Kotus library and then colors. I will choose this color. Let's choose maybe this color, primary. Going back here, I will change the border instead of AAA to that color. So now I have that color, and I will change the background for the after to be actually white. Now that I know that everything looks all right in terms of positioning, I just change it to white, right? The next thing I want to do in CSS is say, when I have the input checked, checked, I wanted before to have a background different than white. So before right now has white. I'm going back to this color palette. I would probably choose something like this. So let's choose this and let's give it this background color. So now if I click on it, you will see that my background becomes blue, right? So there is this in Chrome, when you click on this, you have this outline that gets visualized in form of box. The way to get rid of it, you can set the outline to be none. So now you can see that when I click on this, this is the default version. When I click back, I do have a sort of a nice customized checkbox or radio button, depending on what you define here. So I can change it to radio. Now the style has gone just because I have checkbox here as of type. So if I change it to radio, you can see that now this will look as the radio. But the most important thing is, let me check this to radio, 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 and radio. Now you will see that, let's just correct it. So now you can see that the radio button is checked, right? So I'll just revert it back to checkbox because in the next tutorial, we're going to use this. So let's keep it this way. Now, you can see that if I go back and change this to checkbox again, and also this one to checkbox, we already have a customized checkbox. Changing the HTML to type checkbox again. So now you already, as you can see, we have a customized checkbox, right? I can go ahead and also change this a little bit more, maybe in the input that in the before that I have a shadow, I also define an inset shadow with 0 on x-axis, 1 pixel on y-axis, 1 pixel the radius of my shadow, And here I'll just make it white. So now what happens, just going to correct this inset. You can see that I have a little bit of a white shadow up there. If you look at it here, you can easily see that I do have a white shadow as well. I can go ahead and change the width of it to 80 pixel to make my radio button bigger here as well. 80 pixel and 80 pixel on the before and the actual. And since I made it 80 pixel, I have to change the after from 5 to maybe like 6. And now you can see that it's kind of centered. And when I click on it, it's the checked version. And when I unclick or click again, this is not checked, right? So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. This is the easiest way and the simplest way to create a custom checkbox. So instead, I'm just going to copy this. Instead of something like this, well, I have to like change the so I can just go ahead and remove this. You can see that this is the default browser. And if I paste it back again, you'll see that this is our new type of checkbox. It looks like a radio button. There is a debate on it. You can always say, oh, this looks like a radio button. It shouldn't be checkbox. And I agree with you. You can have checkboxes on a different shape. So for example, instead of giving it a border radius of 50 pixel here, I just can say 3 pixel. Now you can see that it looks more like a checkbox. It's really up to you and how you feel like your UX should look like. You can also change this one from radius to 50 to 3 pixel. And now you have something like a real checkbox. So it's really up to you. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you enjoyed it, please go ahead and like this tutorial and share it. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed to the channel, and stay tuned for the tutorial about this. We do have another tutorial, which is a scrollable uh, sort of pages. You have already seen it in the community section of the channel. So the next tutorial will probably be that, and the tutorial after that we will build something like this. If I just want to skim over it, I have the list of countries here, and then I do have a simple JavaScript to kind of make this interaction work the way I want it to be. So I hope and I wish you have a good day or night, and I'll see you next time. Thank you so much.